Welcome to Entrepreneurial Entrails for some short stories on the guts and glories of being an entrepreneur. My name's Elizabeth Plouffe, and welcome to Entrepreneurial Entrails, which I know sounds like a bit of a weird title, but to be an entrepreneur, it takes such guts. And so this podcast is just like a 5-minute overview of, what's the entrepreneurial lesson for today? I've been talking to a few friends of mine who are also female entrepreneurs, and not that there's anything wrong with being a male entrepreneur. You do take over the world on a regular basis, but right now we're about the ladies. And one of the things that we've been talking about is the lack of access to honest support around the entrepreneurship journey. Sometimes it just freaking sucks to be an entrepreneur. It is hard. It is challenging. It just feels like it's going to break you in half like a apple cruller and all the filling's been sucked out. And so I thought, you know what? I have not a lot of issue with sort of sharing my mind and speaking my truth and what have you. And even the phrase speaking my truth kind of grates on my nerves, but it is what it is. And so this week, my share is that this week has freaking sucked. I had a great Monday. Don't get me wrong. This is not going to be a bitch session. This is my entrepreneurial. There is an action item at the end for anybody who's gone through the same challenge. But this week, I just lost my mojo. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've had 4 businesses now. Just shut down one of them at the beginning of March. And I have a photography business. I have a communications business, not in that order. I had a gardening business. I've had a cake business, a wide variety of things. But this week, my mojo just took a huge hit because my communications business, ironically, in a bit of a slump. And it's only a year old, technically speaking, but it's finding that audience. And it's I was driving yesterday to a networking group that I own and host called the Healthcare Collaboration Network, another story. And I thought, who's got the secret? Because there's all these successful people out there. And I know they have the secret because we all know who Virgin Airlines is. And we all know who Marie Forleo is. And we all know all these, Arianna Huffington and all these incredible men and women who are making the entrepreneurship thing look flashy and easy. Except props to Arianna Huffington because her recent that's not the right word. Her recent come to Jesus moment on the lack of sleep and what it's been doing to her body and her mind and everything was absolutely inspiring because nobody talks about that crap. Nobody talks about the lows where you just, you look at your bank statement and go, wow, I have never seen so many negative numbers in my bank account before. Or you look at your spouse and go, I'm so sorry that this is hard. I am so sorry that this has taken this is my Canadian accent coming through with this story, eh? And this has been that week. So if you are also having one of those weeks or you've had one of those weeks and you've managed to pull yourself out of it, fantastic. What I ended up doing this week to pull myself out of it was I reached out to a couple of fellow female entrepreneurs and I was really honest about how I was feeling. And I think most of us, regardless of male or female, tend to sort of sugarcoat how we actually feel because we've chosen this entrepreneurial life. We've chosen to, by hook or by crook, make a living on our own 2 feet. And when you make that decision and the finality and the realization that your success all comes down to you, hits you, sometimes it can just take you out at the knees. So had a fantastic friend who reached out and said, you know what? Get outside. I felt the same way too. That was the biggest lifesaver was I felt the same way too. And she's really successful. I mean, she has a jewelry line that's across Canada and the US, and I think she's a big deal. But she still has those moments where she has these craptastic weeks that just take her out. And then I reached out to another friend, and it was that honest sharing, and it was getting outside, because right now I work from home, and I'm sure a lot of you do too, and realizing that it's just this week. And I don't know exactly what happened other than digging down deep and doing the big share of how hard it is and saying the F-bomb a few times. But man, my mojo completely turned around. And this afternoon I launched it's private right now, but I launched a a chickpreneur group that we're calling Ballsy right now. And it is going to be a sort of based on the old man's club where, you get together and scratch your nuts and have a drink. And although I don't drink, but have a something, smoke a cigar, whatever. But you really talk about the down and dirty, about how you're feeling about your business or problems that you're having versus a networking group situation where it's all quite a superficial interaction and you don't really come away with any solutions for your business. And the other thing I've launched today is this, the Entrepreneurship Entrails, where this is what we're going to talk about, the guts and glory and stories about being an entrepreneur. So I hope you'll leave a comment or something and let me know what challenges you're facing. What's it like for you to be an entrepreneur? And have you had your come to Jesus moment where you're just not quite sure if you can make it continue to happen and somebody lifts you up or you break yourself out of that funk or whatever? So thanks very much for listening. Going to try and keep these short because, nobody wants to listen to too much moaning and groaning for too long. I hope you're having a fantastic day and that your mojo keeps on going. Bye-bye.